Please take your seats. The session will begin in 5 minutes. Please take your seats. The session is about to begin. As a courtesy to our presenters, please silence all mobile devices. Thank you.
Political power across the global South is being reimagined by women from marginalized backgrounds and gender diverse leaders, rooted in their communities and committed to democracy and human rights. They are driving transformational change with courage and vision, promoting inclusive policies, advancing economic empowerment, fostering environmental sustainability, and securing lasting peace and stability. Women remain significantly underrepresented in formal politics and decision-making spaces. They face violence, discrimination, legal and cultural barriers. Colmena Fund is committed to accelerating women's political power across the global South. We are a dedicated fund providing holistic support for diverse marginalized women to thrive at every stage of their political leadership journey. In the next 2 years, Colmena Fund will invest $9 million to support at least 50 organizations nurturing and advancing women's political leadership. Colmena's grant-making will focus on 4 key areas: countering online gender-based violence, supporting women's political leadership in conflict and transition contexts, amplifying the political leadership of women across Asia and Africa, and promoting the transformative power of women's political leadership in climate action. Colmena means hive in Spanish, a symbol of collective strength. We celebrate and nurture a collective of diverse women leaders who work together and uplift each other. You can be a vital part of this global hive that is fueling change. Join us in supporting women at the front lines, resisting, persisting, and reimagining democracy. Join the hive.
Please welcome to the stage the President of the Republic of Kosovo, Her Excellency Vjosa Osmani.
Good morning, everyone, and it is always a great privilege to be here in New York at the Clinton Global Initiative and this gathering of leaders, change makers, and visionaries who share a common belief that progress is possible and that it's always worth fighting for. The theme of this session speaks not only to the values that I hold very dear as a leader, but to the very story of my country, the Republic of Kosovo. A story of resilience born out of hardship, a story of freedom that was won through immense sacrifice, and a story of democracy. Democracy built against all odds. And through it all, women stood at the very center, at the very heart of every single fight. Women from every walks of life, mothers, daughters, survivors, and women leaders. That is why I wholeheartedly believe that progress requires courage. And courage always requires action. Action, not silence. Because if we want freedom to endure, we have to empower women. And if we want democracy to prevail, we have to support women. If we want peace to last, not just be achieved, but to last, we have to invest in women. This is why we want to continue to share the story of Kosovo with the rest of the world. Our democracy has bloomed after centuries of oppression and occupation. Our freedom was defended by sacrifice, and at every single step, it was women who carried the weight of our struggle. Mothers who kept their children and their families alive and protected under siege and genocide. Daughters who marched for justice and equality. Women who fought for our freedom. And survivors of sexual violence during the war who turned their pain into strength and into a cause for justice and purpose. Through their unmatched bravery, the women of Kosovo joined our liberation army, fighting shoulder to shoulder with men for the freedom of our people. Women documented war crimes and crimes against humanity, ensuring that the world knew the truth about Milosevic's genocidal regime. Women entered politics and institutions after the war to help build peace and to build our state, the Republic of Kosovo. Women championed human rights, justice, and equality. Survivors of wartime sexual violence carried the fight for recognition and for justice, and today they travel across the world to support survivors elsewhere in other countries who are now facing the same. This is why in my country the women, peace, and security agenda is central to democracy, because democracy has never been achieved when half of the population was excluded. And where democracy is absent, there can never be either peace or security for citizens, men or women alike. Including women in decision-making, in peace negotiations, and in dialogue is crucial to lasting democracy, because women broaden the agenda. They look toward a brighter and more prosperous future for everyone, for people from all walks of life. And because of this history and women's legacy, in 2022, we hosted the first International Forum on Women, Peace, and Security in Pristina, the capital of Kosovo. 3 years later, this has transformed Kosovo into a global meeting point for leaders to discuss peace, security, and democracy. A platform where women are not only present, but decisive, where their voices are not simply heard, but acted upon. Because decision-making without women is never real democracy. It is unfinished business. And in Kosovo, we are determined to finish that business. Women now sit at the heart of our national progress. They are the backbone of our institutions, of our economy, our technological advancement, and our future. Their success is Kosovo's success. And to advance this mission, Kosovo is now home to the Regional Center of Excellence for Women, Peace, and Security, the only one of its kind in Europe. Through its work, we are not only hosting global debates, but most importantly, identifying concrete action to make the world more peaceful, prosperous, and safe. We are highlighting the daily work of women in uniform, women in politics and civil society, academia, and beyond as a source of inspiration, courage, and change that, when we work together, democracy truly delivers. And all of us, men and women alike, are much stronger. Yet, as we all know, the path is far from complete, anywhere in the world for that matter. Too many women still face barriers to capital. Too many still endure domestic and digital violence. Some around the world are still facing gender apartheid. Too many still confront discrimination on a daily basis. And these are some of the biggest tests of our democracy. Kosovo's message to the world is that even the smallest nations can lead when women lead. That even the newest democracies can teach older ones this lesson. Democracy without women is democracy unfinished. Let us finish it together. Because investing in women is not just about equality. It's also about resilience. It's about democracy itself. It's about its existence or not. And it's about the world we leave to those who will follow us. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Errin Haines.
Good morning, y'all. How's everybody doing? Yeah, bright and early. It is a great day to talk about investing in women and investing in democracy. Thank you so much to President Osmani for really setting the stage here. We are here to talk about the unfinished business of our democracy. We're going to discuss the world 30 years since the Beijing Conference. I want to welcome to the stage to help us start this conversation former President of Chile, Michelle Bachelet, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham of the great state of New Mexico, and Professor Monica McWilliams of the Northern Ireland Independent Commission. Exactly. We're still caffeinating. Well, thank you all so much for being here because, like I said, I cannot believe I'm so excited and honored to be here as we are marking 30 years since the Beijing Conference when then First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton declared boldly women's rights are human rights and human rights are women's rights. Now, President Bachelet, you served as the first female president of Chile and later went on to be the first executive director of UN Women, as well as the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. And Professor McWilliams, we were just talking backstage how a year after Beijing, you co-founded the Northern Ireland Women's Coalition. It's been described as a catalyst in changing the gender balance in the political sphere in the country. So I want to start by coming to both of you. In the 30 years since Beijing, you've both continued to be stewards of democracy at moments of intense questioning of democracy and the threat of authoritarianism. So as women leaders, how have you harnessed the opportunity to really challenge the status quo and drive forward real change?
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here. First of all, I will have to say my family was very important because my mom, when I was a child, she always worked and she was a great role model. And when I was like 12 or 14 or 13, I asked her, what are the roles of a woman? And she said to me, you can do whatever you want. And it was a long time ago, I'm not young. So she told me, if you want to be a wife and get children, that's your decision, but that's not your destiny. You have to do whatever you want, but whatever you do, do it in the best possible way. And I say that because that incentive, I mean, I didn't have any doubt in my life, even though it's a pretty machist society. So I also believe that women need to be part of politics, because it's essential for democracy. You cannot have a real democracy, and the president of Kosovo was mentioning that, if you leave half of the population of a country or of the world out of the decision-making processes. And so it's essential that women can be active in politics, but it's very difficult. There are so many obstacles. Political parties usually are not so friendly of impulsing women to get into politics. So as a minister, I always did many things in concrete to ensure that women's representation at the different levels was important. As a president, the first time I became first, I was two times president, I think it's the first in the history, paritarian government. 50% women, 50% men. And I mention this because also the symbolic issues are also very important. Because then for little girls who were at that time, they would see that they could become a minister, they could become a president.
Yes.
So it changes your perspective. And also, as somebody told me when I became president, somebody from the Caribbean who went there, she said, you are an inspiration, but an aspiration as well. And I think that is really important. But secondly, being president, we had a very low representation of women in parliament. So we created a new law, an election law, where we put a quota. So women should have better representation, and now we have like it's not good enough yet, but it's like 38 or 40% women in Congress. In Senate, it's a little bit lower. I wanted paritarian, but my coalition didn't accept it. And I asked them, excuse me, why? You know what they told me? Because if one of you win, one of us has to leave. And he was right. Isabel Allende won the election in his place, and he had to leave. So, but that's life, you know, that's life. We need to have our own spaces. So every time in everything, I mean, it's not only about talking about women's rights and the right of participation, it's also how you create the spaces, the concrete spaces, but also mentoring women, supporting women's group, but also give an example. At the beginning, when I was elected president, you know, I had a lot of people who did not believe that women should be president. And every time they will analyze me the way I dress, my weight, and so many things. I mean, I had a colleague being minister. He was 3 times bigger than me, but they speak about the panzer. That means the powerful. I was just the fat, you know? And this kind of things, you leave it like that, but at the end, you know, it comes with a suit, if I may say. When you are a trailblazer,
Yes.
you will receive all the prejudices, everything, but then I could show that I could be a good president, and they elected me again. And now in Chile, we don't have a woman president, but it could be normal to have. And we now have at least 2 candidates for the election in the following months that are women.
Yeah.
I hope one of them wins, particularly the one I want to vote for.
That is so interesting how you're talking about the intentionality, right? We know that this does not happen organically, that we have to be intentional about it, and that representation can help expand people's political imagination, right? So that we normalize women's leadership. Professor McWilliams, I wonder what you would add to that about how you harness the opportunity to really challenge the status quo all those years ago to help drive forward real change.
Well, first, it was amazing the impact of that Beijing conference to have women's rights as human rights and human rights as women's rights. What that did was it broadened the agenda.
Yes.
And that was how we came to put gender on the agenda after a conflict. I was 14 when I started marching for civil rights. I had no idea about women's rights. I was growing up in a very patriarchal, conservative country, but I was watching what was happening here. In fact, I carried a placard that said, "One man, one vote." And when I look at that photograph now, I go, oh no. But, you know, keep it simple was what we did when I formed that coalition in order to get women elected to the peace table, because the women had been working for 20 years and more to stop the conflict, which we now call a war. We knew what was working across the interfaces, across the peace lines. And we came together. We had that pre-existing network of facilitators, mediators. And we thought, could we be negotiators? So the first thing I'd say when we looked at the leaders and were berating them, and I remember President Mandela saying to me, you're worried about not having the leaders? Go home and grow them. And that's the first thing we started doing, was we grew those women into brilliant negotiators. I look back now and I think of the mantra that was women's rights as human rights. The mantra was, wave goodbye to dinosaurs. And I thought, would I choose that today? So the first thing I'd say at that peace table and challenging the status quo that had let the war go on for 30 years was that often leadership comes when you challenge your own side. That it's easy to say no, it's hard to get to yes, as I found in selling the peace agreement to the people afterwards. It's more complicated. And that's the message about what's happening now here in the United States. Work with and across our differences. That's how we did the challenging. We built that coalition. But prepare, 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 for you never know when the moment comes. We didn't know our constitutional moment would suddenly come. It was like a roller coaster. It's what you're going through here. We had polarization every day of our lives, and then it changed. So keep that hope up. Like, it's not the question of hating people, because I saw how that did to my life. My own boyfriend was murdered. I had to sit beside the people that murdered him. That's what you do when you go into peace negotiations. It's not appeasement, it's engagement, it's not endorsement. You have to negotiate your way out of this. But there was hope at the end of it. So really, I want to say to you, you can challenge that status quo. You can live through that roller coaster. And it's better to light that single candle than to sit and curse the darkness.
Well, thank you so much for those reflections, Professor McWilliams, and also just a reminder of the power of women's leadership, the strengths that women bring to leading, and really that idea of going home and growing what that leadership looks like. I want to come to you now, Governor Lujan Grisham, because in November 2018, you became the first Democratic Latina elected governor in United States history. Absolutely. And you're still in rare air. I mean, currently one of only 14 female governors in our country right now. So earlier this month, you announced a major milestone, which we were happy to report about on the 19th. New Mexico will become the first state in the country guaranteeing a no-cost universal child care starting November 1st. Absolutely. And we know the relationship between child care and investing in women as part of how they are able to participate in the workforce, but also in our democracy. So I want to ask you, what practical policies like this have you advocated for to support democratic engagement in the state?
Well, first, Errin and President and Professor, it's an incredible honor for me to be on this panel with you because of the Secretary Clinton and your work several years ago and 30 years ago, 3 decades. I get to be a governor. So it is not everything all at once overnight, but we are creating worldwide change, and I think that's powerful, has to be powerful, and we don't talk about it enough. And while I'm the first Democratic Hispanic governor in U.S. history, my predecessor was the first Republican Hispanic woman governor, also from New Mexico. And we have a Native American woman running in the Democratic primary to be the next governor.
Yeah.
So we're going to, there's possibilities here. We're going to keep that train on the tracks. Women are problem solvers, and women make the decisions for their families. And I want to talk about a couple key policies, but in addition to that, there's this still notion around the world, and certainly it's alive and well in this country, that women only work on social and family issues. So I represent still a per capita poor state. You know, it's generations, hundreds of years before the Pilgrims thought about boarding a boat. New Mexico had 200 years of governing already under its belt, and that's before thousands of years of indigenous leadership in that state. New Mexico today is in the top 10 economic powerhouses without significantly growing our population, nearly unheard of. So women often create better economic opportunities, including the highest wage growth in America is in New Mexico. So we really need to, I think that's a place where we're missing an opportunity. Women can make differences as leaders in every context of our daily lives, and women in the workforce is economic equality and empowerment. And to make sure that we could secure that, we have a couple other things. So now it's universal child care, universal pre-K, both 3 and 4-year-olds, fastest growing pre-K program and one of the best in the country. Moonshot, and we need it, into K through 12 with literacy tutoring and a Science of Reading Institute, and free college, 2-year, 4-year trades, apprenticeships, anytime, anywhere, part-time. You just go. You just go. Because not everyone got to have the opportunities that I have.
Right.
And so we want folks to be able to make these decisions when and where they can. That builds an economy that will last generations. It builds wealth and equity. And most valuable, it builds equality. Last thing about that, we've also lowered taxes. We've kept the child tax credit. We've invested several times in expanding the working families tax credit. We've lowered personal income. We've also taken away the taxes on veterans and Social Security benefits. I don't know why we had those in the first place, but you build an economy that allows you to invest in those kinds of things. And this is what it's led to. New Mexico is one of only a couple of states where the majority of our policymakers in the legislature are women. We're seeing women presidents of universities, women CEOs of our largest corporations. So when you engage women as equals in their family decision-making and in your states, they will invest in the ground level in all of these community efforts. That community engagement, in fact, leads to a full, equal democracy, which is sliding in America. And in fact, the number of women, so y'all, And that's really Texas. I shouldn't have done that.
It's
I'm
okay.
gonna get grounded in my own state. Women need to be running for Congress, and that part of it is women do make a difference and also want to make a difference, right? We don't have time. We need to make the time to reroute the direction of this country. That means being involved at every single level, school boards, PTA, go back to college, move to New Mexico, run a business. All of that makes a difference. And I want New Mexico to be able to lead and shine in that space, and I think we're well on our way.
Well, listen, as the other resident Southerner on this stage, y'all is absolutely allowed and permitted to be used. But no, I mean, what you are saying about the opportunities that can be made possible, right? When women have access to education, when they have access to opportunity, and also the narrative change that needs to happen, right? Platforms like this are great to, for governors like you to come and tell the story and the role of gender in helping to create a more free and more fair, more equal society. But that is the story that we need to be normalizing and telling, and frankly, part of the reason why the 19th exists, to make sure that that narrative change is happening and encouraging others to do the same. I want to ask all of you, I mean, you're talking about some of the successes that you were able to have in various areas. What are the solutions? Talk about the partnerships, the resources that really were essential to achieving those successes, and how we can all kind of take those lessons learned and apply them today. President Bachelet, I'm going to start with you.
Well, yes, first of all, we were joking, say we're all going to New Mexico.
Really good food, too.
I'm sure. But the thing is that, and I, as a president, as a minister, I did the same kind of things that you do. Because, of course, you need to produce all the possibilities for women to be able to realize their dreams. If it's working, if it's in politics, or whatever it is, in science, whatever it is. And you need to create, because there are so many obstacles in the society. And of course, inside the political parties as well. And one thing I should say is that if I would never been a president of the republic if I only was a minister of health, because health is like caring for others. It's like a girl's role. No?
They think that's a women's issue.
Yes,
Yes.
of course. I mean, it's caring. So, but I became Minister of Defense. And that was the first time I appeared in the polls like a possible president of the republic. Because it was the idea of a woman, not only a caring, and I'm a caring person, but also somebody could be strong. And I had studied defense issues, even here in the US, because of the political history in my country, the dictatorship. I thought we need to understand the military world. I mean, politicians need to understand the military world, and we need to have possibility of discussing even the hardest part of our history. Yeah. So I became Minister of Defense, and then I was seen as somebody with power. And I mean that because sometimes it's not enough to be a good professional, a good politician. Sometimes obstacles and prejudice are so big. The other thing I want to mention, not all women have gender perspective. Not all women will understand that the normalization of things that shouldn't be. And I've been in Davos, for example, in meetings with women entrepreneurs, and they would say to me, well, I am a good entrepreneur, but not because I'm a woman, it's because I'm good. And I told them, look, I was elected president because I'm good, but because I had that possibility, I want many other women to have the same possibility.
Yes.
So we don't want that every time a woman is in a fantastic place, everybody said, oh, she's exceptional. Because we don't want exceptions. We want that everyone who has the capacities and the will to do things that can have that possibility. I already mentioned quotas. I already mentioned mentorship. I didn't mention already the CEDAW, the Committee Against Discrimination Against Women. They passed a resolution number 40, who speaks about the possibility of the need to have inclusive and equal representation of women and men in politics. And the Club de Madrid really thinks that this is a milestone, and we need to continue pushing on that. And you need to support resources. I mean, it's the same thing with entrepreneurs, SMEs. You know, women are better payers of credits than men. But usually they have, in some countries, they have problems to obtain the money to do, for example, a political campaign. So we did, again, speak with the banks, work with them, so they could have the same possibilities of men. So you need to support women, but also, when I was in defense, there was this network of women who had this logo. It says, women can all, but not all at the same time. Because women, we tend to feel guilty if our house is not like a house to appear in Better Home and Garden. I will never appear on that. I can tell you, my home will never appear on that. Probably you don't have all the time with the children, like other women who are housewives, or with a husband, or whatever. So you know that you need to prioritize. What is the more important thing? And I think the most important thing is to be prepared, to have the will, the competence, we have it, but usually we are questioned if we are competent enough. So we need to be sure what we want to do, and we have to do that. But not alone, supporting others. What we did when I was minister, we were 5 women in a cabinet of like 20 something. Every time one had a problem, we call each other, we support each other, we give advice to the other ones, or I receive advices. And we had meetings once a month or once 2 months. We talked to each other because we needed to feel that this very difficult thing we're going through, that we were not alone. Of course, many men in cabinet also did the same, but we women were...
We did it better. The Democratic governors do that too. It's a very good model.
And that's very good, isn't it?
I think today we call that the group chat, right? Absolutely, absolutely.
We prepared, but it's a make some. I mean, on one hand, you could say in the past solidarity,
yes,
but now we could call it sorority as well.
Yeah, I love that. Well, we're talking about some of these lessons. Professor McWilliams, I want to come to you because you were part of a political movement that led to one of the most durable democratic transitions in modern history. So what lessons from your experience and advice do you have for the next generation? Governor Lujan Grisham has already encouraged people, run for office, right? Support those women in office, as President Bachelet said. What continues to give you hope?
Michelle just said something there which I think is really important, which is to have people at your back and not in your face. So build your good team. Surround yourself with people who are positive, not cynical. If they say why not? Be curious, be creative, because there are a lot of dinosaurs out there, and you have to ask, will they morph or disappear? And that's what we had to ask ourselves. Advice, I try to be humble about this, because what I'm finding today is that amplifying the voices of young people and other young women give me as much advice as I can give them. The advice also is from the local to the global, share the learning. I have seen tremendous things happen. I have been with a friend, a peace-building circle of women in Syria for 13 years. And one of those women is now in the transitional government. She's the Minister of Labour and Social Affairs. Hind Kabawat, she spoke yesterday at the UN. The other advice is back to something President Trump said yesterday, which shocked me at the UN, maybe the day before he said it, which is that he solved 7 wars. I mean, talk about humility. But here's what I'm going to say back. No one person solves a war or a conflict. And probably the other piece of advice was, promise what you deliver. I was the Chief Commissioner for Human Rights. I drafted the Bill of Rights for the country. I'm still trying to deliver that. As I said, I was 14 when I started marching for those rights. I was 44 when I signed off on the agreement which had those rights. A clause long before Women, Peace and Security, our agreement was 1998, which said the right of women to full and participation. It was an aspiration. Actually, someone described this initiative yesterday as Inspiration Center. I thought it was a lovely description. But it's also a commitment center, a delivery center, which I have been amazed at watching all of you networking and committing. And that's what I would say to any young person coming up. It's easy to write the paper. It's very hard to deliver on those aspirations. So you need oversight people, you need timetables, you need benchmarks, and fair play to the Clinton Initiative. You need commitment. So if you sign up today, Americans have this word, show up. I love it. And then stand up, speak out, and stay with it. So I would end by saying I'm in my 70s now. It's an unfinished business. I'm working as hard today at peace building and trying to work on polarization as I did the day I got up from that peace table and said yes to the peace agreement. So just have that hope. Keep at it. Don't give up. And hopefully you'll not be pushing up the daisies to see the change.
An excellent note to end on. President Bachelet, Governor Lujan Grissom, Professor McWilliams, thank you so much for your work and your commitment. We're now going to hear some exciting commitment announcements.
Thank you.
Can I just say one thing?
One more thing?
I just want to say something. I'm going to run for Secretary General of the UN.
You can definitely say that here on this stage.
Please welcome to the stage Elise Nelson.
Wow, okay. News made here at CGI. Hi, everyone. I'm Elise Nelson. I'm president and CEO of Vital Voices. What an incredible panel this was of truly iconic women, women who I feel blessed to have followed in their footsteps and worked so closely with Monica McWilliams in Northern Ireland during the Good Friday Peace Accords. 30 years ago, I was in Beijing as a 21-year-old activist, desperate to understand the world around me. And in that pre-social media era, if we can imagine that, when Hillary Clinton spoke, then First Lady, 30 years ago, that speech, women's rights are human rights, spread like wildfire around the world and ignited a global movement. Vital Voices was founded as a result of that. Today, 3 decades later, we've supported nearly 50,000 women leaders across 188 countries. But I can honestly tell you that 20 years ago, when CGI was founded, these issues were still on the margins. We didn't have the fuel and support and the allies and the data we needed to truly move forward, to build and support women leaders. We had no proof. Over the last 20 years, and back there, think about that, back in 2005, 2006, before we had that data, CGI placed these issues precisely where they belong, in the mainstream, on the main stage, not in the margins. And that fueled this movement. It gave it credibility. I've been part of CGI since 2006. Almost every single year we've had a commitment. And I think one of the most powerful things that CGI does is bring people together across communities and sectors to really build those unlikely partnerships. You know how when you go to a dinner party and that one expected guest makes for the most interesting conversation? I feel like that's CGI. So I would say advice to everyone who's here, stay open, stay curious, and connect with people who you don't yet know because they may very well be your next commitment partner. I am here to present and talk about a few commitments that are really about advancing women's leadership. And I think all of us would agree, and certainly what we have seen from the UN, I think all of us would agree that these issues have never been more critical. And as we look around the world, 47% of women's organizations believe that they are going to go out of business by the end of this year. Think about the impact of that. So for everyone sitting here, think about, how do you fuel this movement? How do you fuel these great commitments that you're about to hear about? So please join me in welcoming the first group of commitment makers who are creating enabling environments for women's full participation in public life. Chantel Zuzi from Refugee Can Be. Susanna Malcora from Global Women Leaders Voices. Frady Reese from Unchained at Last. Uganda is one of the world's largest refugee hosting countries, and Refugee Can Be is committing to providing displaced girls living in Uganda's refugee communities with academic, psychosocial, and residential support. This dual-track program will provide 200 primary school girls in the Wanja refugee settlement with tuition, food assistance, after-school mentoring, and virtual tutoring with U.S. high school students. And 40 teen girls in Kampala will receive housing and support to attend secondary school. A refugee-led team will lead community-based engagement, trauma-informed care, and adolescent development training so girls can live and learn with dignity. As the climate crisis disproportionately affects women, Global Women Leaders Voices is committing to lead efforts to improve women's representation in climate leadership by providing 400 women worldwide with capacity building and training to bolster their inclusion in climate decision-making spaces. GWL Voices will start by analyzing quantitative data on women's representation in climate-related spaces, gathering qualitative data through questionnaires and interviews. The resulting comprehensive report will be used to strengthen the capacity of women political leaders on climate policy and diplomacy through virtual and in-person mentoring and development opportunities. GWL Voices also plans to host a series of intergenerational dialogues and pilot learning programs for women leaders. I want to be part of that. With child marriage currently legal in 34 states. Did you hear what I just said? Child marriage is legal in 34 states in this country. Unchained at Last is committed to advance legislation at the state level to ban child marriage across the United States by 2030. Unchained at Last, yes. Unchained at Last will conduct in-depth research, analysis, create materials on the topic to inform draft legislation and recruit bipartisan policymakers as part of an advanced legislative ban, as partners to advance legislative bans. To help support this work, they will build coalitions of organizations, survivors, and activists across the country. Email campaigns and other initiatives like Earned Media, Unchained's Chain in Protest, where participants wear wedding gowns and chains to help raise awareness of child marriage and its devastating impact on girls' health, education, and economic opportunities, safety, and rights. Thank you. Congratulations to all of you. The next group of commitment makers is focused on advancing reproductive justice, maternal health outcomes across the United States. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Dara Kass from FemInM, Dr. Anu Kumar from EPAS, Jean Axis from HC, Creating Healthier Communities, Lucy Joloska from Winrock International. Across the country, 35% of counties do not have hospitals equipped to provide obstetric care, which disproportionately affects rural communities, people of color, low-income patients. FemInM is committing to train 350 physicians in Illinois and Alabama to provide legally sound, evidence-based emergency reproductive health care for pregnant and miscarrying patients in politically complex and medically underserved communities. This initiative will build physician confidence and support institutional readiness to provide services like managing early pregnancy loss, ectopic pregnancy, and access to emergency contraceptive, medication abortion where possible. In response to increasing abortion restrictions and bans in the United States, IPAS is committing to safeguarding access to abortion care in some of the most restrictive regions, predominantly focusing on southern states. IPAS aims to train at least 625 medical providers, including students, residents, emergency physicians, nurse practitioners, and midwives, to provide competent and compassionate abortion care while remaining sensitive to legal situations in each state. IPAS will also bring international trainers to give the United States-based providers insight into practicing in increasingly restrictive settings. And select residents will have the opportunity to go abroad to IPAS-affiliated clinics in Latin America to receive hands-on training they can't get in the United States. Drawing on their extensive global experience in these types of settings, IPAS is giving the next generation of American clinicians the skills, knowledge, confidence, and values-driven framework to care for their patients despite ongoing threats to abortion access. Doulas are linked to positive birth outcomes, yet doula care is not widely covered by Medicaid. States that do offer coverage have varying reimbursement rates, making it difficult for doulas to enter and remain in the workplace. In 2024, Creating Healthier Communities committed to codifying the case for investing in doula and the doula workforce, creating a compensation model that could be used to inform policy. Creating Healthier Communities has since piloted a successful compensation model and workforce toolkit co-designed with doulas to develop a presentation for local policymakers and national partners to use to advance the doula workforce development and compensation reform. As a result, 90 workers have benefited from enhanced protection, wages, and career paths. To transform maternal health outcomes in rural Arkansas, Winrock International is committing to scaling Arkansas's Bridge Initiative, starting with 5 rural counties. The initiative aims to improve rural health systems' capacity to improve maternal care while reducing socio-cultural barriers to accessing maternal health support. Winrock will also partner with local health systems to enhance evidence-based home care models to provide mothers with prenatal and postpartum care, along with other community-based services, including housing, food, and transportation assistance. Through the Bridge Initiative, Winrock is providing women living in Arkansas's maternity care deserts with the opportunity to receive life-saving maternal care closer to home and in their own communities. Thank you to all this morning's commitment makers. Again, I encourage all those on the stage and all those in the audience to find ways to fuel these efforts together. We all know there is no time like right now to support women, because we know that investing women is an investment in democracy. Thank you.
Please welcome back to the stage Errin Haines.
Well, hello again. I want to thank Elise and all of our commitment makers. Can we give them another round of applause? Okay, so now let's get into our second conversation, movement building on the front lines. Please welcome to the stage Stacey Abrams of American Pride Rises Network, Melanie Hui of Luminate, and Amanda Littman of Run for Something. All right, well, welcome to all of you ladies. Let's get started. Let's talk about why we're here. Stacey Abrams, you were the first woman to lead in either chamber in the Georgia General Assembly when you were minority leader of the Georgia State House from 2011 to 2017. And you're continuing to fight for a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive America for everyone through an initiative that you founded last year, American Pride Rises. Melanie Hui, given the role that technology can play in realizing healthy democracies and societies, Luminate is investing in the movements and the leaders who reimagine technology and building a world where technology serves people's voice, agency, and human rights. And Amanda, since you launched Run for Something on January 20th, 2017, the day of the inauguration of Donald Trump as president for the first time, the organization has recruited more than 200,000 young people across all 50 states to run for state or local office. So I want to open it up with a question for everybody about what it takes to create and sustain healthy democratic movements, particularly in ways that ensure inclusive participation, accountability, and the amplification of women and those most marginalized in political leadership and decision-making. And Stacey, I want to start with you, and I wonder if you can talk to me about this new 10 Steps campaign that you have launched.
Well, first of all, Errin, thank you for the work that you do and the work that the 19th is doing. Because part of the way we build a healthy and vibrant democracy is by staving off autocracy and authoritarianism. And that means we have to have a free press. And so thank you for the work that you're doing to lift that up. The 10 Steps campaign is designed to create a framework and a toolkit for all of the organizations that are currently engaged in defending democracy, but are either lacking access to resources, to platforming, or simply they don't know that others are out there doing the work. The other part of this is that we cannot fight an enemy we don't understand. And so the first part of 10 Steps is actually explaining what autocracy looks like in the American context, using the framework that every strong man who's ever taken over democracy has used. And I say strong men because they're the only ones who've done this work. Women usually get it right, so we don't worry about that. But because we need to know what the problem is, we have the 10 steps to authoritarianism and autocracy. But then we need 10 steps to freedom and power. And right now, there's so much doomsday language about what's happening. We're forgetting that we are a resilient nation that is comprised of more than 50% women, communities of color, the disabled community, people who have survived not just vulnerability, but have thrived despite oppression. And so the goal is to make certain that we are organizing ourselves across this country and around the world. If you believe that we can get to freedom and power, there are 10 steps that you can take, from committing to sharing to mobilizing and organizing. My three favorites are disruption, denial, and election. But we are thinking about how do we help individuals access their power? How do we help organizations connect to one another? And how do we help institutions reclaim their power to fight back instead of becoming complicit and pre-compliant with the oppression that is coming to this country? Visit 10stepscampaign.org to learn more.
I was going to say, where can we learn more about that? But you just gave the plug. You beat me to it. Melanie, what would you add to that conversation? What does it take to create and sustain really healthy democratic movements?
Thanks, Errin. You know, Stacey, that's amazing also. I have been listening back there to the speakers, and I got a real sense of how amazing progress we've made in women's rights, but also how fragile things are, especially as our world gets increasingly digital. In this digital world, I think we need to think a new lens on women's rights and how in the digital world we can protect it. You know, 30 years ago when we talked about Beijing, Google didn't even exist, which is a strange concept. So it's safe to say for women like the people I sit with, to be a woman online is a scary place, not that fun. And so the angle that we need to look at is really about women's life online, in their public and civic life online. And it's much about that as their offline life now. Stacey and Amanda both work on the pull factors, getting women more involved, getting young progressives more involved. But I think we also need to consider the push factors, the things that keep women away from being on this space because they don't feel safe. At Luminate, because of the work we work on in the intersection of tech and women's rights, gender rights, as well as human rights, part of the angle is that we've seen a whole bunch of gender disinformation during elections, for example, or we're looking at tech-facilitated gender-based violence. So these are all the different aspects that we've seen that keep women out of politics, out of being able to participate in a comfortable way. So to sustain healthy movements, I think what we really need to see is a world in which algorithms don't silence women, in a world in which women are able to be amplified online instead of silenced.
Yeah. You know, just listening to you, Melanie, that is so eye-opening to think about. I mean, obviously, so many folks can be focused on the fight for freedom and fairness and equality in the real world. But what does it mean for that fight, the fight for democracy online? What does that look like? How are we making sure that that freedom and fairness and equality also exists for women in particular online? Amanda, I want to come to you. Talk to me about inclusive participation and accountability, amplification of women, and especially those marginalized voices, right, in political leadership and the decision making.
So I'm going to say something really obvious, but like when you hear it, you'll be like, duh. People vote for people. They don't vote for ads. They don't vote for tactics. They don't vote for policies even. They vote for a person, the name on the ballot, which means candidate recruitment, who that person actually is, their life story, how they show up, how they make voters feel, is the whole ball game. A bad candidate, you can spend literally $1 billion and it won't matter. A good candidate can make a long shot race competitive, can make everything else more efficient, and can transform a community, even if they don't win. So what Run for Something does is try and bring more people who want to run to do something, not just to be something, into public service. We have gotten, your number's actually a little out of date, Errin, we've had nearly 250,000 people sign up with us to run for office. Best thing about that stat, 70,000 of them have signed up in the last 11 months. That's more people than who signed up with us in the entirety of Trump's first term. More than half of those 70,000, women, 80% under the age of 40, all 50 states commensurate with population, about 40% people of color. It is what we need in order to have a strong opposition party in this moment, and also to reimagine what democracy could look like in the United States. especially for young people. I think especially for young women, young people of color, young LGBTQIA folks. The systems and the leaders that got us to this point will not serve to get us to the next one. We cannot go back. And it's one of the things I love about the Run for Something candidates and alum of wow, now there's more than 1,500 people we've helped elect across the country, including now 5 members of Congress, and in 2026, 4 people running for governor, 4 people running for United States Senate, and a couple dozen running for a mix of House and statewide offices. They did not wait for permission. They're not waiting their turn. They see this crisis and they're saying, if they're not gonna fight for me, I'm gonna fight for me. And our job, both Run for Something's my literal job, but our job in this room and in this community is to support them, to help them, to have their back, to give them money, to knock doors, to send postcards, to send texts, to reshare everything they post, to make it so their Instagram comments are supportive and not hateful, to give it all we can, because they are doing the brave thing of putting their name on the ballot. They are putting themselves out where they are in the arena, and it is so hard. And over the last couple of years, especially the last 6 months or so, it has gotten even harder. The threats to their life and their safety are even more prominent, and they are doing it anyway. So my call to what we need to make a more inclusive democracy, to keep our democracy at all here in the United States, is to have these folks back in every possible way, and to have it early, to have it now, to have it 6 months ago, to have it a year ago, because we know it takes people about a year from signing up with us to actually getting on the ballot, and to do it for as long as it takes.
Yeah. Amanda, I want to stay with you. But maybe for folks who in the room who don't know, the newsroom that I helped to start 5 years ago, the 19th, is named for the 19th Amendment, which guaranteed the right for some, but not all women, right, to have access to the ballot in 1920. I truly believe that part of, the work of democracy today is the unfinished business of the 19th Amendment, right? And I know that so much of that is about enhancing women's small d democratic participation in this country. So, you talked a little bit about the what is happening right now. For people, connect the dots a little bit more for people, Amanda, in terms of how enhancing women's democratic participation can drive forward democracy and prosperity for everybody.
So I'll tell you a little story. In 2017, we worked with a young woman running for state house in Virginia. Her name was Jennifer Carroll Foy. She's a Black woman. She was a soon-to-be mom. She actually gave birth to little twins during her campaign, and she would knock doors across her district during the day and then go visit her little babies in the NICU at night. She tells this story of how she was at one point knocking doors in her district, and she went to like a strip mall in the area and saw this guy with a Confederate flag shirt who made her feel a little unsafe. She's again a Black woman and it looked scary there. And he comes over to talk to her, to have a conversation about her campaign, and have like a very honest conversation about her campaign. She ultimately flipped this state house seat at the end of that year and went on to pass Medicaid expansion in Virginia, which brought health care to more than 300,000 Virginians. And she talks about how one of the things that drove her to do that was that the NICU bills for her babies were unimaginable. And anyone who's ever had sick kids knows it's not just the fear of what's happening to your loved one, it's also the financial burden that it will hit for you. Jennifer's campaign inspired more moms to run for office, including Errin in Texas, who knocked doors while pregnant, kept getting mistaken for a college student because she kept throwing up in the trash cans on the college campus in her district, proceeded to then bring her baby daughter Lark with her to the state floor, where she proceeded to leave the state just a couple weeks ago to fight for democracy and to stop the redistricting process in Texas, or at the very least call attention to the danger. She says she did it for her daughter. She wants her daughter to grow up in a more democratic Texas than she's in. And I think these women, they do the impossible thing, and in the process pass legislation that, yes, is related to children's and families, but also is related to the core of the things that make us American, our freedoms, our ability to show up and vote and make our voice heard. And they inspire people to do it too. And I especially love that for each of these women who does it under incredibly difficult circumstances, we hear quite specifically from dozens and dozens more who say, hey, I saw you helped her do it. Can you help me too? I didn't know someone like me was able to put my name in like this. It's so powerful, so powerful.
Yeah, and that's the thing, expanding our political imagination with every one of these candidates. I want to come back to you, Melanie, on this question of, really women being more than half the population, as we have mentioned here, right? Can't just be talked about as a special interest group anymore. We should not be doing that. Please, let's stop doing that. But also understanding that our democratic participation doesn't just help women, it helps everybody. So how do you kind of see that, and what is the case that you make?
I mean, the fact that we even have to have this discussion is amazing, maybe dismaying. I remember being a teenager, seeing friends come back from the Beijing Declaration, and I really thought that the world would be different now, that we wouldn't have to even make the point that women's rights are human rights, that we would have had more gains. I think what we're seeing is that women in all areas, but in this world that is increasingly digital, are a canary in the coal mine. And digital harassment just can't be the cost of being a woman online. So really, when we think about protecting everyone's rights and wanting a world that looks like that, of course, protecting women's rights online is part of that. So I think it's about renewing our commitment to gender equality and gender justice as the world of technology intermediates everything, as AI will probably exacerbate some of the biases that we see in the world today. I think we really need to look at this digital lens as a critical kind of lens into this issue as well.
Yeah, and enhancing democratic participation really means also making the promise of Beijing 30 real, right? Stacey, what would you add to that?
So the work we do at American Pride Rises Network really focuses on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. You cannot defend or build the world that we deserve if we do not have diversity, which means all people, equity, which means fair access to opportunity, and inclusion, which means respect for belonging of all people. And so to Amanda's point, we have to be willing to imagine the world we deserve, not the world we've had. To Melanie's point, we can't get there if we're not fully leveraging everyone and not only using all of the tools, but defending those who are using those tools. And so I talk about DEI. I don't use any other language because they don't want us to use it. Melanie said she wishes, she imagined the world would be different. The problem is it is. The worry they have is that it's actually working. DEI is working. Across this world, we just heard that Kosovo and Chile, that around the world, women, people of color, the disabled, the LGBTQIA communities, the dispossessed are actually owning space. And that is terrifying to those who believe that the world is theirs. And so we have to call it out. We have to anchor it. But we also can't allow them to steal our language, because when they can take, bless you, when they can take your language, they can take your ideas. When you spend your time fighting over your right to think an idea, to have that freedom of imagination, you cannot then build a democratic population and participation that is resilient. They are angry because it's working. Pronatalism, Christian nationalism, authoritarianism are all designed to restore a world that should not have ever been. And so our responsibility is to not only push forward, but to demand in every space the type of inclusion that we need. And that means saying aloud what we believe to be true. When they can demonize our language, when they can delegitimize our ideas, they can then litigate to take away from us, which is why we need the work of Run for Something. We need legislators who are in place to put back what they are trying to steal. We need folks like Melanie who are helping spread information, but also spread safety. We need folks like Errin who are telling the truth in real time. But we also need the organizations that we try to pull into the American Pride Rises Network, and what we're going to do with 10 Steps, which is that we've got to show there are more of us than there are of them. Right now, we are convinced that we are the minority. I've been a minority for a very long time. I am really good at it. And one of the ways minorities succeed is by aggregating our power to the power of others. Because when minorities unite, we become the majority, and that's when democratic participation, that's when pluralistic democracy actually takes hold and becomes not only sustainable, but resilient and capable of building the world we deserve.
Listen, I know a lot of folks in this room are like the folks here that are on stage on offense, optimistic, right? So as we close out here, just thinking about the progress that was made, as well as the setbacks in women's participation and leadership in decision-making since Beijing, I wonder what your hope is for the next 30 years.
I hope we don't have to have this conversation again. I hope that we are celebrating what we've achieved, that we no longer have first, we're on the 50th, the 75th, the 100th, or worse, or more importantly, we no longer have to mark when it started because it is so constant that we believe it should be.
You know, Silicon Valley has a prevailing mindset about move fast and break things. I think we need a really genuine feminist counter to that ideology, so that a handful of men in Silicon Valley are not making decisions about technology and how that appears in our world for all of us. And so I think my counter would be, can we have a feminist motto that looks more like, move slower and let's do things together.
I want it to be so boring when a woman runs and wins. I want it to be the least interesting thing about her. And I don't want her to have to be the only woman in the room. I want her to be in a room of, let's call it 70% women. I don't know, I think it would work pretty well. And I want every man in that room to be as feminist and as committed to the values that make her special and that make us as women leaders powerful as she is. But mostly I want it to be boring because I would like to focus on different problems at some point.
Amazing. We are up here manifesting people. That is a great note to end on. I want to thank Stacey Abrams, Melanie Hui, and Amanda Littman so much for your insights. And I just want to say this has been such a great conversation in investing in women and investing in democracy. So thank you all so much for your attention. Have a great rest of the initiative.
Thank you, Errin.
This session has now concluded. Thank you for attending.
looking out, right? My man laughing, my man looking out. Give me the commentary when you're going real fast. Got the slide up. Up in the corner, it's a cart. It's just a cart in the corner. It's Hogan and Center. I'm sorry, man. Help me out. Because I don't think they're going to juries, right? Just one. What did the security guys do over there? about the MTA one? I thought she was legit at the beginning. Okay.
Okay? If he gets a extensive amount of time, he's probably going to, even if he gets like an extra year, okay, he goes to school and makes it good.
Anybody else?
And that's why he's rejected. So now I don't feel, I got the feeling that he's going to be getting out. That's why I'm going to say I high-five you and just get the update.
Thanks, Eddie. Let's not block the pool camera, please. We're banking on that. You guys looking good, by the way. Love it. Yeah, I would say that is definitely accurate. Now, who the hell is this? How we doing today, good?
Good morning. Good morning.
Nick. No idea. Friends and family. Sisters? Sisters are showing? Good. Hey, stand up right here. Something happened yesterday. With,
I said that's probably the only way to do it. I'm not July 16th. Public? Public?
Well, we like to, as we always do.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So,
all right.
You knew we were going to start out here, right? But you get your poll. Yeah, but you can see online. You know my name. It's a $35 check. You know what I'm saying? When you hit my notification bell,
maybe here.
That's something that you get extra. You got to not only hit the bell,
Like 10 minutes. Be there.
Okay? Everybody is in the job coming in for a promotion.
Feel like it? My spot's back here. Then I'm going to let you know.
I'm still as a promise. So let me know. They seem like they're running a little late. Or are they going to come? They say they'll still come?
Yeah, which is right there. So he said, never raised my voice. Honor of Roger Anderson.
Let's go talk to him.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But we never get a chance to talk to him.
Yeah, he's right there.
Main characters. Really?
Do you think there's anything over here? That's right, baby. We're the only ones that got good umbrellas.
Let it rain, let it rain. Okay, all right. Who asked you? Who asked you?
Don't worry, when we finish here, I'll go home, okay, shades in the rain. Shades in the rain. Mama, on shades? Well, what's wrong with shades in the rain? What's wrong with shades in the rain?
Hey,
what up,
Boogie?
This president is here.
What up, what up?
Wait a minute now.
She looks so cute. There she go right there.
That's okay. How you doing? What's going on?
Are you going inside? I think I'm gonna stand outside because I feel like there's nothing real quick. I think and by the time you take all your stuff, take off your backpack, take your phone, take it. Oh, now you're coming right down.
That's what I was thinking about as well. Like, do I want to go through all of the rigmarole?
So look, what do you think about today? What do you think about
Well, today is really exciting because number one, I get to see all of you guys. That was like the most, like I was so excited this morning, like I'm going to catch up with everybody that started from day one. I'm just excited to really find out, like, what's the verdict? Like, you know, because we've been down here since May, and it is now September. I mean, October 3rd is around the corner. Right? But this right here, it made everybody get out of bed, is what I'm saying.
Well, not everybody. I'm thinking
it's a lot of people. There's a lot of people flying in. I saw them on TikTok. I mean, they might not see them out here. They probably know but there. And a lot of people don't even know that it started at 11 o'clock. A lot of people didn't have the time. So that's far.
But then the other time is 9. So you should have been out here like
and then you know also it was raining.
Today was important.
And it was raining today, so a lot of people, the rain makes people slow down. Right. And that's another thing. I don't think they think it's important, like you just said. Right. Everything is important.
Everything is important.
We start in this case from the beginning, right, all the way to the end.
That's right.
So that's why I was so happy to come out here today, because I know my children. Y'all will be out here. Rain, sweet, hell, snow.
That's right. Everybody ain't true.
So get the foot to handle.
I saw when you was talking about that too. I was gonna jump in and say something, but then I was like, oh my God. Me and you will never get off that topic.
There's a lot of things that went on that I didn't talk about with my people because I wanted to protect them from like how I didn't want them to worry about me. Right. I'm out here, I'm not bothering nothing with you. You know what I'm saying? Right. Seeing a lot of things that went on behind the scenes. People throw shade, but you gotta build relationships with the right people.
Yeah.
You can't do all this divide and conquer stuff.
With me, when I came down here, I just came down on my merit, and I met all you guys. Then when Gene Deal showed up, everybody's like, oh, we didn't know you. You weren't supposed to know that I know him, that I'm his personal assistant.
Because
I wasn't coming down there on that. You know what I'm saying?
I could have came down. I could have came down. Right or wrong. We was kicking it, and then you told me down the line.
Because that's not why. Because that's not what I was down here for.
Opportunists. Oh, now they effing with you. Now you say, oh, Gene Deal. They always think they're gonna need something.
Yeah. So it was like, that's why I didn't say anything to anybody. And then when people saw me, hey, how you doing?
How you doing?
So when people saw me with him, they was like, oh,
And why I gotta tell you I know him for you to be true to me.
That part. And I didn't want that hangers on type thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wanted to be genuine. Like I said, oh, we are genuine. You know, and we pull up the bump. Look, I ran all the way uptown to give you a hug at the parade. I was so mad that I
was
missed
side
you.
by side.
Yeah.
It was like, this person looking for you. This
I was
person
running. I was like, wait, let me see. Yeah, I think that was really dope. But that was because we forged a relationship down here.
What do you say? He's got the pot and it smells good.
That's why I was like, maybe that's why I was not down.
Yeah, the girls can be looking at.
Yeah.
Girls can be looking fly.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's what I was just about to say, because I know they want to. Well, speaking of that, if you have to have my info. We get the business part of it. I've been learning the business part of it. Yeah. Well, that's just like me. I was talking to Jimmy and we have like some sponsors. I wanted to do like a panel with all of us, like up and coming, so we can tell like our stories and have all of our, I don't like to call them followers, I call them my people, so we can have all of them, like we have your people there, we have his people here, you know what I'm saying? And we just talk about how this impacted us, how, like just, or just, you know, or just a panel to have people, right? Well, we can brainstorm. We can definitely brainstorm. Because the thing about it is we have something here. Because yes, yeah, we have something here. Yeah. Like with us, with being on we show you real.
What's up, man? What's going on?
It's a history. And I think we can work Oh yeah, I ain't
oh,
going
yeah,
on now.
bingo.
Both ends. Young and you know what I'm saying? So yeah. They didn't understand. Right, yeah. That is true.
I didn't talk about the man today.
Some of the things is right. And that's just like with me. I don't give my opinion about which way I feel now when I'm talking about it. Of course, but when I'm out here, I don't have an opinion. It's not, I don't have an opinion. I'm here to just see, right, exactly. Talk about a lot of things, but I never give my opinion. Program, And when you brought that up the other day, I wanted to jump on so bad, but I was like, oh my God, because I can go on for days, days and days and days. It's so true. Yeah, it's like, it's so true. It's so true. Okay, so that means you don't even follow me. Because you know, I've been out of the country. I've been in Paris. I've been in Spain. So that means you don't follow me. But whatever topic is trending, this is trending right now. We don't know what about it. Period. negative comments more, because for every one negative comment, you have about 1,000 people that support you.
That's right. I'm not ignoring y'all.
And you just build your own community, and that's
Sounds
what I
good. We
like.
got a Jack out here.
Everybody, and that is okay. Right. I'm not for everybody. Right. But the ones I am for, I work with you guys. I'm a good time. I'm not here for a long time. But we don't have a good time on pop up. We don't pop out. Right. And get our point across.
I got it scanned by.
Thank you. People don't like you for the way other people love you.
And I had to separate that.
Loving on you, so now they don't love you.
Yeah, I had to separate that. I had to.
Even certain people that was out here. You know what I'm saying?
I learned.
That's the house. What's wrong with one of them? And they just like try to do that.
Well, because I'm been on the interview. So I've been on the interview. I love people if I feel that energy is like, you know, a joke. You know, you do a little Jimmy Hop. It's like, yeah. We're back. Everybody coming back. No, but I'm so happy. I'm just saying they were just asking, and I was like, this is what
I had possibly. Now, do you think he's going to get time served? We don't all know. No.
When I tell you for the first time in my I just
I did. We don't know, especially when that judge is yeah, no, we're all
I wouldn't be surprised if
well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I personally don't think that he was in because you got to remember this is a person who reached to a level from the bottom. Right. Not many people. There's some things that are wrong now, right? But I don't feel like he was came out just like, don't pour water on me. No.
even
I don't know.
That was
oh yeah, and what was lawyer? The lawyer said that. And I feel like the lawyer said that in the clear. I said that in the seminar.
And her expression was our bad times. Like, why would you say that?
I think that's a lot of lawyers should have said
no, but it doesn't. But you're representing him. So that men were that lawyer says that meant that should basically be
First said she hasn't heard.
and that's the power of
always good to see you.
You're not going in?
No, it's going to be a bottle. Yeah, because it's only 2 seconds. Yeah, run out before they run out. Right. All right. Enjoy. We'll see you.
You have to have a sit down, so before I leave, I already have that information.
So what the Bible say? I mean, you know,
Well, basically.
Go over there and subscribe to the Popcorn Show. Yeah. Yes, yes. I appreciate the story. No. Yes. Okay, I think I'm going to go and see what's going on upstairs. Yeah, go upstairs. Look at the workspace over there. That's what I'm going to do. Oh yeah, you don't want to, yeah, don't do that. That's great. I'm going to come down and let you know what the deal is.
Have a nice sweet, please.